Jack Harper stood at the edge of the large hangar, watching the alien vessel docked with the station. The ship looked like a floating palace, its silver hull glinting under the bright lights. Banners of deep blue and gold rippled along its sides, and strange symbols carved into the metal seemed to shimmer as it moved. He had seen alien ships before, but this one was different. It belonged to the royal family of the Vesari Empire, and his orders were clear: protect the princess during her stay. He checked his armor. It was standard human military issue, functional and plain. No jewels, no flowing robes, no elaborate designs like the alien guards who now stepped off the ship. They wore tall helmets and flowing capes, their armor polished to a mirror shine. Jack stood at attention, keeping his face calm. Then she appeared. Princess Liara walked down the ramp with the elegance of someone who had never been hurried in her life. Her dress shimmered with silver threads that caught the light, and her crown sat perfectly on her head. Her eyes swept over the human soldiers until they landed on Jack. A small smile touched her lips, but it was the kind of smile that hid amusement. "So this is my human escort?" she said in her melodic voice. "I expected someone taller, and perhaps with a little more sparkle." Jack gave a short nod. "Sergeant Jack Harper, ma'am. I will ensure your safety." Liara tilted her head. "Do all human soldiers wear such dull colors? Or is it a way to blend in with the shadows?" Her tone was light, but the teasing was clear. Jack didn't react. Had been trained to ignore remarks like this. Instead, he said, "Our colors are meant for function, not display." She gave a quiet laugh as though amused by his seriousness. How very practical. As they walked toward the shuttle that would take them to the diplomatic hall, Jack kept his pace steady. Liara walked beside him, her guards trailing a few steps behind. The princess glanced at him now and then, as if studying a curious animal. "Tell me, Sergeant, do human soldiers smile? Or is that considered a weakness in your ranks?" Jack allowed the faintest hint of a smile. "We smile when there is something worth smiling about." "How mysterious," she said with a small laugh. "Perhaps by the end of this trip, I will find a way to make you smile." Jack didn't answer. His attention was on the crowds forming near the docking area. Humans and Vesari citizens stood together, watching the royal procession. Many had never seen a member of the alien royal family in person. The air was filled with whispers and the flash of cameras. Once inside the shuttle, Liara settled into a seat, crossing her legs with perfect poise. "You are very quiet, Sergeant. Do you ever speak first, or must someone always drag the words from you?" Jack took the seat opposite her. "I speak when necessary." Liara smiled again, clearly enjoying the challenge. "Perhaps I will make it my mission to discover what is necessary to you?" The shuttle lifted off smoothly, gliding toward the diplomatic hall. Jack kept his eyes on the windows, scanning the skies for any sign of trouble. The princess seemed to notice. "You are looking for danger already? We have not even arrived." "Danger does not wait for a schedule," Jack replied. Liara studied him for a long moment. "You are unlike any guard I have had before. They either try to impress me or stay out of my sight entirely. You seem content to do neither." Jack didn't look at her. "My job is to keep you safe. Nothing else." She leaned back, the smile still on her face. "We will see if that is true." The shuttle touched down outside the Grand Hall, a massive structure built to host the first joint talks between humans and the Vesari Empire. Bright banners hung from its walls, and a wide path was lined with soldiers from both sides. Jack stepped out first, scanning the crowd. Liara followed, her presence drawing every eye. As they walked toward the entrance, Liara whispered, just loud enough for him to hear, "You walk like you are ready to fight the air itself." "Habit," Jack said. She laughed softly. "I think this will be an interesting trip." The diplomatic hall was filled with voices, the sound of many languages blending into a constant hum. Jack walked a step behind Princess Liara as they entered. The human delegation stood on one side of the room, the Vesari delegation on the other. Bright lights reflected off polished floors, and the air smelled faintly of flowers placed along the walls. Liara moved with the grace of someone who knew every eye was on her. Jack kept scanning the room, his gaze moving from door to door, window to window. He noticed the Vesari guards watching him with mild curiosity, as if unsure why a human soldier had been chosen to protect their princess. The human ambassador greeted Liara warmly. She returned the greeting with polite words, but her eyes flicked toward Jack now and then. When the formalities ended, the two delegations began their first round of talks. Jack stayed near Liara, silent and alert. After an hour, the princess excused herself from the discussion. She walked toward a quiet balcony overlooking the city. Jack followed without a word. Outside, the view stretched far, towers shining under the afternoon sun. Liara turned to him with a faint smile. "Tell me, Sergeant, what do you think of my people?" Jack answered simply, "You are disciplined, proud, strong." "And what do you think of me?" she asked. "Are the princess of your people?" "My opinion does not matter," she laughed softly. "Oh, it matters more than you think." She leaned on the balcony rail, her silver dress moving gently in the breeze. "You are different from the others. The more I tease you, the calmer you become. Are you truly unaffected, or do you hide it well?" Jack looked at the skyline. "My duty is to stay focused. Words cannot distract me." She tilted her head. "We will see about that." A faint buzz came from Jack's earpiece. It was the voice of another human soldier. "Sergeant Harper, an escort team is ready to take the princess to the neutral zone. Departure in 10 minutes. Jack acknowledged and told Liara it was time to leave. She followed him back inside, her long steps matching his steady pace. The neutral zone was a contested area between human and Visari space, chosen for its symbolism. It was meant to show trust between both sides, but Jack knew such places often carried hidden dangers. They boarded a small transport ship. The interior was quiet, the hum of engines, the only sound. Liara sat near a window, watching the world fall away beneath them. "So, this neutral zone," she said, "is it dangerous?" "Sometimes," Jack said, "but we will take precautions." She glanced at him with a playful smile. "And you are my greatest precaution, I suppose." Jack did not reply. He was reading the latest security updates on a small screen. Liara seemed amused by his silence. Halfway through the journey, an alarm sounded. Jack stood immediately, moving to the front of the ship. The pilot reported that 2 unknown vessels had appeared on their scanners. The ships were not broadcasting identification codes. Jack ordered the pilot to adjust course and increase speed. He also activated the defensive shields. Liara watched him, her earlier playfulness replaced by interest. "You seem ready for this," she said. "Preparation is part of the job," Jack replied without looking at her. The unknown ships drew closer for several tense minutes, then broke off and disappeared from the scanner. Jack waited until he was sure they were gone before telling the pilot to resume the original course. Liara leaned back in her seat. "You did not panic, not even a little." Jack sat down again. "Panic never helps." "I am beginning to think there is nothing that can shake you," she said, her voice quieter now. Soon, the neutral zone came into view. It was a wide station floating in space, with both human and Visari flags displayed on its outer walls. As they landed, Jack noticed the heavy security presence. Humans and Visari stood side by side, weapons at the ready. Liara stepped off the ship and looked around. "This place feels tense," she said. "Stay close," Jack told her. Leo's teasing was gone. She seemed more thoughtful, watching the way Jack scanned every corner. He didn't need her words to know she was beginning to see him differently. The main hall of the neutral zone was large and bright, with high ceilings and long glass windows that showed the stars beyond. Human and Visari officials spoke in low voices around large tables, while guards stood near the doors. Jack stayed close to Princess Liara, scanning every person who came near. She walked with calm grace, but her eyes moved quickly, taking in the scene. The first hours passed quietly. Liara attended a meeting with both human and Visari leaders, while Jack stood near the entrance keeping watch. He noticed a group of strangers lingering near one of the side halls, their clothes plain and their eyes restless. Something about their movements felt wrong. Jack spoke into his earpiece, asking another human guard to watch the group. The guard confirmed he would, and still, Jack's attention stayed fixed on them. A short break was called, and Liara stepped away from the table. "This place is strange," she said softly to Jack. "Everyone speaks as if smiling, but their eyes are sharp." "That is politics," Jack replied. "Words are only part of the message." She studied him for a moment. and your message is silence." Before Jack could answer, a sudden noise echoed through the hall. Shouting came from the side corridor. Jack reacted instantly, moving in front of Liara. 3 figures rushed from the hallway, each holding a weapon unlike any he had seen before. Their eyes locked on the princess. Jack drew his sidearm and ordered the attackers to stop. They ignored him and kept coming. The alien guards reached for their weapons, but Jack was already moving. He grabbed Liara's arm and pulled her behind a column, using it as cover. Blaster fire tore through the air, striking the walls. Jack returned fire, aiming to disable rather than kill. One attacker fell back, wounded in the leg. Another charged forward, but Jack stepped into his path and struck with the butt of his weapon, knocking him to the floor. The last attacker aimed at Liara, but Jack pushed her to the ground and fired, hitting the weapon in the attacker's hand. The weapon fell with a metallic clang. Guards swarmed in, tackling the assailant. Jack looked down at Liara. "Are you hurt?" Her eyes were wide, but she shook her head. No, he helped her to her feet. The alien guards moved to surround her, but she waved them back. "He stays," she told them, pointing to Jack. Security teams took the attackers away. The human and Visari leaders called for the talks to pause while the area was checked. Jack kept close to Liara as they moved to a secure room. Inside, she turned to him. "You put yourself in front of me without hesitation." "That is my job," Jack said simply. "Many have said that before, but few have meant it," she replied. "You were calm. You did not waste a moment." He shrugged slightly, thinking too long can cost lives. Lyra's gaze softened. "Perhaps I was wrong about you. Perhaps there is more to humans than I thought." Jack said nothing. He stood near the door, listening for any sign of trouble. Later, when the hall was declared safe, they returned to the meeting. Whispers followed them. Both human and Visari eyes were on Jack now. The story of what had happened was spreading quickly. As they walked back to the table, Liara leaned closer. "You know, I teased you because I thought you were just another soldier doing his duty without care. But now I see you care very much." Jack kept his eyes ahead. "Duty and care are the same thing in my work." "You are difficult to read," she said, though her tone was warmer than before. The rest of the meeting went on without trouble, but Liara no longer teased Jack with every sentence. She watched him differently now, as if measuring the man instead of the uniform. When the day ended, they prepared to return to the alien ship. Jack walked beside her through the docking area, the memory of the attack still sharp in his mind. She glanced at him once more. "Thank you, Sergeant," she said quietly. Jack gave a small nod. "You are welcome, Princess." The corridors of the alien ship were quiet when Jack and Liara returned. The silver walls glowed faintly, and the soft hum of the engines was the only sound. 2 alien guards walked ahead, but Jack stayed close to the princess. After the attack in the neutral zone, he trusted no one completely. Liara walked beside him, her steps slower than usual. She seemed to be thinking. Finally, she spoke. "You risked yourself for me without hesitation." "Why?" Jack glanced at her. "Because it is my duty." "That is what you keep saying," she replied. "But duty can be cold. You did not act like a cold man. You acted like someone who cared." Jack did not answer right away. Sometimes caring is part of duty. Sometimes it is the reason for it. They reached a private meeting room. Liara dismissed her guards, leaving only Jack inside. She sat down at a polished table, motioning for him to stand nearby. "I must be honest with you, Sergeant," she said. "When I first met you, I thought you were just another soldier. I teased you because I wanted to see if you could be shaken. I thought it would be easy." Jack raised an eyebrow. "And now?" "Now I see you are harder to shake than stone," she said with a small smile. "You are not just guarding me with weapons. You are guarding me with your mind." Jack stayed silent, his posture steady. She leaned forward. "My people and yours do not trust each other yet. That is why these talks are so important. But I think trust starts with people, not governments. Maybe you and I could start it." Jack studied her face. "Trust is earned." "And have you earned mine?" she asked. He thought for a moment. "That is for you to decide." Her lips curved into a faint smile. "Perhaps you have." There was a pause before she continued. "I want you to help me prepare for tomorrow's talks. I need to know how humans see these agreements. Not from a diplomat's view, but from someone who has lived through the cost of conflict. Jack nodded. Then you will hear my truth. They spent the next hour discussing human history and the wars that had led to this fragile peace. Jack spoke simply, describing how soldiers saw treaties not as words on paper, but as promises that could save or cost lives. Liara listened closely, sometimes asking questions, sometimes just watching him. You speak plainly, she said at last.
How, mostly?
Try to wrap their words in silk. You hand me the cloth as it is. Silk can hide too much, Jack replied. A call came through the ship's intercom announcing that the vessel would remain in orbit overnight for security checks. Liara stood, smoothing her dress. Thank you, Sergeant. I think tomorrow will be different. Jack followed her to her quarters. 2 alien guards waited outside, but Liara paused at the door. Before today, I thought your calm was just a wall. Now I think it might be your strength. Walls can keep people safe, Jack said. She nodded slowly. Then I am glad you are mine. Jack inclined his head and left her in the care of her guards. He walked the corridors for a while, checking on security posts, speaking briefly with human and Visari personnel. The memory of the attack was still sharp in his mind. He knew there could be another attempt. Later, as he stood near a viewing port, he saw the human colony world turning slowly below. The lights of its cities glimmered in the dark. He thought of how many lives rested on the success of the peace talks. Failure would mean more than broken promises. It would mean more blood. He returned to his post outside the princess's quarters. The alien guards gave him polite nods but said little. The ship's hallway was still and silent. Inside her quarters, Liara sat by her desk, looking at a small silver pendant in her hand. It was shaped like a star, the symbol of her royal house. She set it down carefully, her mind on the soldier outside her door. Both knew the next day would decide more than just a treaty. It would decide whether humans and Visari could truly stand together. And somewhere between duty and respect, a quiet trust had begun to grow. Morning came quietly on the alien ship. The soft light from the walls grew brighter, signaling the start of the day. Jack was already awake, standing outside Princess Lyra's quarters. The guards nodded to him as he kept his steady watch. Today was the final day of talks, and he knew it could bring either peace or trouble. When the door opened, Liara stepped out dressed in formal silver and blue. Her crown caught the light as she looked at him. Ready, Sergeant? Always, Jack replied. They walked through the corridors to the transport shuttle. The air inside was calm, but Jack kept his eyes on the scanner readouts. The trip to the diplomatic hall passed without incident, and soon they were stepping into the great meeting chamber. Human and Visari leaders sat at a long table. Cameras from both worlds recorded the event. Liara took her place at the center, with Jack standing a few steps behind. The air was heavy with expectation. The talks began slowly, each side presenting terms and responses. Jack listened without speaking, his gaze moving over the crowd. Then he saw movement at the far end of the hall. A man in plain clothes was pushing through the gathered observers. Jack tensed. He moved quickly, stepping to the side to get a better view. The man reached into his coat. Before he could pull anything out, Jack signaled security. 2 guards intercepted the man and pulled him away. The room fell into a brief silence before the talks resumed. Liara glanced back at Jack. There was no teasing in her look, no, only gratitude. Hours passed. The discussions grew tense at times, but neither side walked away. Liara spoke with calm authority, reminding both sides of the cost of war. Jack saw the effect her words had. Some of the hardest faces in the room began to soften. Finally, as the sun over the human colony dipped low, the 2 delegations reached an agreement. Documents were placed on the table. Leaders from both sides signed, their hands steady, but their eyes showing relief. When it was over, applause filled the hall. Cameras flashed. Liara stood and addressed the crowd. Today, we choose a path that will not be easy, but it will be worth it. Choose peace. She then turned toward Jack. And I must speak of someone who reminded me what courage truly means. The room grew quiet. Liara stepped closer to Jack, her voice carrying to every corner. This human soldier stood between me and danger without hesitation. He acted not for reward, not for praise, but because it was right. In him, I have seen the strength of his people. There was a ripple of surprise among the alien delegation. It was rare for a princess to speak so openly of a guard. Gosh, Jack kept his posture straight. I only did my duty, princess. And that, she said with a faint smile, is why it matters. Now, she reached into a small case and took out a silver token shaped like a star, similar to the pendant she had in her quarters. She placed it in his hand. A gift from my world. May it remind you that even in silence, actions speak the loudest. Jack closed his fingers around it. Thank you. The ceremony ended, and the hall slowly emptied. Outside, the air felt lighter, as if a weight had been lifted from everyone. Jack and Liara walked side by side toward the shuttle. Will you return to your world now? Jack asked. Yes, she said, but I will remember what happened here. I will remember you. Jack gave a small nod. Safe travels, princess. On the flight back to the alien ship, Liara looked out at the stars. For once, she did not speak. Jack sat across from her, watching the readings on his screen. Yet, in the quiet, there was an unspoken understanding between them. When they reached the ship, she paused before stepping inside. Farewell, Sergeant Harper. May your duty always be your strength, and may your strength always guide your people, Jack replied. As he turned to walk away, the silver token warm in his hand. Jack knew that something had changed, not just between humans and Veseri, but between himself and the princess. It had begun with teasing words, but it ended with respect, and perhaps something deeper left unsaid.